A millionaire left his bride-to-be just before their wedding. Years later, he crosses paths with her again, now the mother of quadruplets. Shocked, he takes her to court. Lily Anderson stood in front of the full-length mirror, her wedding dress shimmering in the soft amber light of the hotel suite. For what felt like the 100th time, she adjusted the lace veil, her movements growing more hesitant with each passing moment. The room was eerily quiet, save for the steady ticking of the clock on the wall. 11:30 a.m. In just 30 minutes, the ceremony would begin. Her heart raced, filled with a whirlwind of emotions, anticipation, nerves, and love. Today was the day she would become Mrs. Evan Collins, wife to the richest man in Boston. It was meant to be the perfect day. But then the phone rang. Her heart skipped a beat as she reached for it, the smile still lingering on her lips. "Hello?" She answered softly, her voice trembling slightly. A pause followed, thick and heavy. "Lily?" Evan's voice was cold, distant. Her heart clenched. "I'm not coming." The words hit her like a physical blow, knocking the breath from her lungs. Her chest tightened painfully. "What?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, filled with disbelief. "It's over. I can't do this. I need to focus on the company right now. You'll understand one day." And with that, the line went dead. The phone slipped from her grasp, crashing to the floor. She stared at her reflection, blank and numb. A bride without a groom. A love story without its fairy tale ending. As the seconds ticked by, it dawned on her. This wasn't just the end of a relationship. It was the beginning of a battle she never anticipated. Lily's world came crashing down that day, leaving her standing in the ruins of what was supposed to be the happiest moment of her life. The opulent hotel room, once a symbol of Evan's wealth and status, now felt cold, empty, and utterly devoid of warmth. Tears blurred her vision as she ripped off the veil, throwing it to the floor in a heap of crumpled lace, much like the promises Evan had so easily broken. In the days that followed, news of the cancelled wedding spread like wildfire. Headlines splashed across newspapers, framing her as the jilted bride left behind to pick up the pieces while Evan made his escape. The paparazzi were relentless, their cameras flashing in her face as she walked out of the penthouse they had once shared. But Lily refused to fall apart. With no job, no connections, and nowhere to turn, she packed her belongings and vanished from the high society circles she had once been part of. She found a small, run-down apartment on the outskirts of town, a far cry from the life of luxury she had grown accustomed to, but it was hers, and more importantly, it was free from Evan's shadow. About a month after the wedding that never was, she sat in the tiny bathroom of her new apartment, staring at a small plastic stick in her trembling hands. Slowly, a second line appeared. Pregnant. Her heart plummeted, shock quickly giving way to a swirl of emotions, fear, confusion, and, strangely, a glimmer of hope. There was no calling Evan, not after the way he had left her without so much as a second thought. He had no right to know, not after walking away so easily. She couldn't let him back into her life, not now, not ever. As the days turned to weeks and the weeks into months, Lily's once slim figure began to change. Life grew inside her. 4 lives, in fact. Quadruplets. The doctor's voice was tinged with awe when he told her the news. She could hardly believe it. "How am I going to do this?" she whispered one night, sitting in the dark of her tiny apartment, cradling her swelling belly. But she did. Lily didn't just survive, she flourished. For them. She juggled 2 jobs, piecing together a life for herself and her 4 children, Oliver, Caleb, Jake, and Jesse. Those 4 little blessings brought joy, filling her days with love and laughter. As the quadruplets grew, so did Lily's determination. Each milestone, every first word, every giggle, and every tiny step affirmed that she'd made the right choice. Evan was a figure long erased from their lives, a man who didn't deserve a place in their world. The boys, however, bore his unmistakable features, his piercing blue eyes and that familiar sandy blonde hair. Strangers would often stop her on the street, marveling at how striking their resemblance was to one another, and with each comment, Lily felt a small but sharp tug at her heart. It was as if Evan lingered in their smiles and playful glances. By the time the boys turned 3, Lily had established a routine. During the day, she worked at a modest marketing agency, and by night, she freelanced as a graphic designer, squeezing in projects after the boys were tucked in. Finances were tight, but she managed. There was no other option. Then, one bright afternoon, everything shifted. Lily had taken the boys to the park, and their laughter filled the air as they played on the swings. She was lost in their joy, until a strange sense of unease crept up her spine. Turning, she felt her breath hitch. Standing just a few feet away, watching the boys with an unreadable expression, was Evan. In that moment, the world shrank, leaving only the 2 of them. He looked different, older, sharper. His suit was perfectly tailored, his hair slicked back, but there was something raw, almost fragile in his eyes. "Lily," he whispered, taking a tentative step toward her. "No," she replied, her voice trembling as she instinctively positioned herself in front of her sons, a protective shield. Evan's eyes flickered to the children, his face draining of color. "Are they?" His voice faltered, but Lily saw the exact moment he pieced it together. His mouth fell open, and for a brief moment he looked like a man who had just lost his way. "They're not yours," Lily lied, the words spilling out before she could stop herself. But it was too late. Evan wasn't fooled. She could see it in the way his eyes darted between her and the boys, locking onto every familiar feature. He took another step, fists clenched at his sides. "Lily, I need to know," he pleaded, his voice low, tinged with urgency. "Are they mine?" She raised her chin, willing her expression to remain impassive. "It doesn't matter, Evan. You walked away years ago. We don't need you." With that, she called out to the boys in a bright, albeit shaky, voice. "Come on, guys, time to head home." The boys ran to her, their tiny hands reaching for hers. Evan stood frozen, watching as they walked away. As Lily glanced over her shoulder, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Determination. He wasn't going to let go. 2 weeks later, Evan reappeared. This time he wasn't alone. He came armed with a lawyer. Lily's heart sank as she scanned the documents he shoved into her hands. "Custody? You can't be serious," she gasped, staring up at him in disbelief. "I am," he responded quietly. "Lily, I made a mistake. I know that now. But those boys, they deserve to know their father, and I deserve a chance to be part of their lives." Her hands trembled as she crumpled the papers. "You don't get to walk back into my life after everything you've done, after abandoning us." Lily's voice shook with anger. "I didn't know." Evan's reply was quiet, but full of pain. "I had no idea about them, Lily. Because you never gave me a chance to tell you," she shot back, her words rushing out before she could stop them. "You walked away, Evan. You left me with nothing, no money, no home, and 4 kids to raise on my own." Evan flinched at her words, but then his jaw set in determination. "I'm not leaving again." What followed was a whirlwind of court battles and tense meetings with lawyers. True to his word, Evan never missed a hearing, fighting relentlessly to prove he was serious about being involved in their sons' lives. And bit by bit, though it was agonizing, Lily began to believe he might actually mean it. But trust wasn't something that could be restored easily, and as the strain between them grew, Lily couldn't shake the doubt gnawing at her. Was Evan really here for the boys, or was this just another of his power plays? One evening, just as Lily began to think she might be able to let her guard down, the past came back to haunt her. A tall, elegant woman stepped out of Evan's car, her hand casually draped over his arm. Lily's stomach dropped the moment she recognized her. Samantha, Evan's fiancée. Why was she here? Why was she smiling down at Lily's children like they were already part of her perfect little life? "Hello, Lily." Samantha's voice was a purr, her eyes glinting with a smug satisfaction. "I hear we have some things to discuss." Lily's heart raced as Samantha's cold, practiced smile settled on her. She was dressed impeccably in a designer coat, her hair styled to perfection, exuding that same effortless confidence she had the day Lily first saw her. It felt like a cruel flashback to a nightmare she thought she'd escaped when Evan walked out of her life. "What are you doing here?" Lily's voice was low, careful not to let her sons, who were playing nearby, overhear. Samantha tilted her head, a small smirk playing on her lips. "Isn't it obvious?" She cast a glance at Evan, her expression softening as she looped her arm through his. "We're going to be a family, Lily." Lily's insides twisted in knots. "What are you talking about?" "We're getting married," Samantha said with a casualness that tore at Lily's heart. "And Evan and I want to make sure these little ones are part of our lives." The implication hung in the air like a heavy weight. "Our lives," Lily snapped, her voice trembling with barely contained fury. "Our family, not yours." "Actually," Samantha's voice cut through her like ice, "we do have a right. Evan is their father. And as his wife, well, I guess you could say I'll be their stepmother." Lily felt the ground tilt beneath her. How could this be happening? Evan's return was supposed to be her biggest challenge, but now Samantha was here, twisting the knife even deeper. "You are not their mother," Lily spat, her voice shaking as she fought to maintain control. "You will never be their mother." Samantha's smile only widened. "No, I suppose not. But I'll still be in their lives, whether you like it or not." Evan, who had remained silent up until now, finally stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Lily. "We want to make this work, Lily, for the boys." The audacity of his words sent a surge of anger through her. For 3 long years, Lily had fought tooth and nail, scraping by to provide for her children. And now Evan had the nerve to waltz back into her life with his fiancée, acting like he could simply take over. "You don't get to just come back and decide to play house with my sons," she hissed, her eyes blazing with fury. "Our sons," Evan corrected softly, his voice gentle but firm. "And I'm not going anywhere." Lily glared at him, hating the way her heart tightened at the look in his eyes. It was the same look he used to give her when they were young, when he made promises she had been foolish enough to believe. "Please, Lily," he murmured, taking a step closer. "Let's talk about this. I want to be in their lives." She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, forcing herself to stay calm. "You can be part of their lives," Lily said, her voice low but unwavering. "But it's going to be on my terms, not hers." Samantha's smile faltered, a flicker of anger darkening her eyes. "That's not for you to decide," she shot back. But Lily's gaze remained locked on Evan. "Yes, it is. Because I'm the one who's been here. I'm the one who raised them. I'm the one they run to when they're scared or sick, calling me Mommy." Samantha opened her mouth to protest, but Evan placed a hand on her arm, silencing her. He turned back to Lily, his expression torn. "I just want a chance," he said quietly, his voice almost a plea. "Please." Lily swallowed hard, battling between her anger and a more fragile, painful emotion. She didn't trust him, not after everything, but her boys deserved the chance to know their father, and deep inside, a small part of her, though bruised, longed to believe that maybe, just maybe, he had changed. "I'll think about it," she finally said, her voice tight. "But you don't get to make demands. Not after what you did." Evan nodded slowly, relief softening his features. "Thank you." Samantha, however, was livid. "You can't be serious, Evan. She's trying to control everything." "That's enough, Samantha," he snapped, his eyes flashing. "This is between Lily and me." Lily watched as Samantha's face twisted with rage, but she turned sharply, marching back to the car without another word. Evan lingered, his gaze still on Lily. "I met it," he murmured. "I want to do right by them." Then he turned and followed Samantha, leaving Lily standing alone once again. Nay, that night, sleep refused to come. Every time Lily closed her eyes, Samantha's smug face loomed, her expression triumphant as if she had already won. Lily knew what this was really about. It wasn't just about the boys. It was about power. Samantha wanted control, wanted to remind Lily who Evan truly belonged to. But Lily wasn't about to let her win. The next morning, she called her lawyer. The conversation was long and tense, discussing every angle, every option. By the time she hung up, Lily felt drained, but her resolve had hardened. She would fight for her sons, no matter the cost. 2 weeks later, the first custody hearing was set. Lily arrived at the courthouse early, her heart pounding in her chest. Evan was already there, looking tense but resolute, and beside him, like a shadow, stood Samantha. Samantha's lawyer painted Lily as an unfit mother, throwing every hardship and mistake she'd ever faced into the spotlight. They talked about her low income, her small apartment, the lack of family support. "It's clear that Ms. Anderson cannot provide these children with the life they deserve," the lawyer droned, his tone heavy with condescension. "Mr. Collins, on the other hand, offers them stability, security, and a loving home." Lily clenched her fists under the table. How dare they? How dare they belittle her for sacrificing, for doing the best she could while Evan had barely lifted a finger? But then her lawyer stood up, his voice calm and measured. "Ms. Anderson has been the sole caregiver for these boys for the past 3 years. She has been their rock, their source of love and comfort. Despite her circumstances, she has never asked Mr. Collins for assistance. She has provided for them with everything she has, and they are happy, healthy, and loved." Evan shifted in his seat, his gaze falling to the table. Lily's heart tightened as she watched him, torn between wanting him to feel the pain she had endured and the faint hope that he might finally understand. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s, listened intently to both sides, her eyes sharp as she leaned forward. "Ms. Anderson?" The judge's voice was calm but firm. "I believe you're a caring mother, but I also think it's important for children to have both parents in their lives when it's in their best interest. Are you open to working with Mr. Collins to establish a joint custody arrangement?" Lily swallowed hard, her gaze flickering towards Evan. His expression was soft, almost pleading. He didn't look like the cold, distant man who had walked out of her life. Instead, he resembled the Evan she had once loved. Slowly, she nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." Evan's shoulders slumped in relief, and for a fleeting moment, Lily allowed herself to feel a sliver of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could figure out how to co-parent, even if nothing else. But as she turned to leave, Samantha stepped in front of her, blocking her exit. "You're making a mistake," she hissed, her eyes filled with venom. "I'll destroy you, Lily. Mark my words." Lily stared back, her initial shock quickly morphing into a quiet, simmering rage. "You can try," she whispered, her voice steady, "but I won't let you take my boys." As Lily walked away, she knew one thing for certain. The real battle was only beginning. The weeks that followed were a blur of emotions: confusion, tension, and unease. The boys, too young to grasp the complexities of the situation, only knew that they suddenly had a father in their lives. A man who looked like them, but felt like a stranger. Evan was trying, though. That much Lily had to admit. He picked them up every weekend, took them to baseball games, the zoo, and amusement parks. He made a genuine effort to connect, learning about their interests: Jesse's passion for soccer, Jake's love for drawing, and Oliver's fascination with numbers and puzzles. But despite Evan's efforts, there was always a layer of awkwardness between him and the boys, a subtle stiffness that never quite went away. Lily could see it in the way her sons hesitated around him, and every time she witnessed his attempts to bridge the gap, a familiar sting of betrayal resurfaced within her. "I'm their father," Evan said one evening as he dropped the boys off, his voice steady but laced with frustration. "They deserve to know me." "I know," Lily replied, arms crossed protectively over her chest. "But they're confused, Evan. You can't just show up out of nowhere and expect them to accept you instantly." His jaw tightened. "What do you want me to do, Lily?" "Be patient," she whispered, glancing at the boys who were engrossed in building a tower of blocks on the living room floor. "And for God's sake, get Samantha out of the picture. She's only adding to their confusion." Evan's face hardened. "Samantha is my fiancée. She's going to be part of their lives, whether you like it or not." The words stung, cutting deep, but Lily forced herself to stay composed. "You're going to have to make a choice, Evan," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Between keeping your fiancé happy and doing what's best for our sons." He stared at her, a flicker of regret crossing his features. But then he shook his head, turning away. "I'm not choosing," he muttered. "I'll make it work." But Lily knew better. Samantha was a ticking time bomb, and it was only a matter of time before she exploded. And that moment came on a stormy Friday evening. Lily was hurriedly getting the boys ready for Evan's weekend visit. Their rain boots were scattered across the floor, and jackets were being tugged on when a knock echoed through the house. When she opened the door, she found Samantha standing there in a spotless white trench coat, an umbrella held elegantly above her head. "Where's Evan?" Lily asked, her voice cautious. "He's not coming," Samantha replied coolly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "He asked me to pick up the boys today." Lily tensed, her eyes shifting towards her sons, who froze in their tracks the moment they spotted Samantha. Jesse stepped back, his hand gripping Oliver's arm tightly, while Jake clung to Lily's leg, peeking at Samantha with wide, frightened eyes. "No," Lily said firmly, her voice like steel. "You're not taking them." Samantha's eyes narrowed, her gaze sharp as a blade. "I'm not asking for permission, Lily. Lily straightened, positioning herself squarely in front of Samantha. "Get out of my house. You think you can keep me out of their lives forever?" Samantha spat, her face twisted with fury. "I'm going to be their stepmother. They'll be part of my family." "No, they won't," Lily shot back. "They're my family, and I won't let you manipulate Evan into—" "That's funny coming from you," Samantha sneered, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You think flaunting those kids in front of him is going to make him forget about me? About us? Evan and I are getting married, and when we do, I'll make sure you never see a cent of his money again." Lily blinked, momentarily stunned by the accusation. She had never asked for Evan's money, not when she was pregnant, not after the boys were born. The idea that she would use her children for financial gain sent a surge of anger through her veins. "This isn't about money," Lily said through gritted teeth, struggling to keep her voice steady. "It's about what's best for the boys, and what's best is for you to stay away from them." Samantha's lips twisted into a cruel smile. "You don't get it, do you? You're going to lose. Evan will see that I'm the one who cares about his future, our future, and when he does, he'll take those boys away from you." Lily's voice was barely a whisper, but the resolve behind it was clear. "Over my dead body." Samantha's smile widened, her eyes gleaming with malicious intent. "That can be arranged." Before Lily could respond, a sudden cry broke the tension. She spun around to see Jesse staring up at Samantha, his small face crumpling with fear and anger. "Go away!" he shouted, his voice trembling. "You're mean. I don't like you." Lily reached out to him, but Jesse was already dashing towards his brothers, tears brimming in his eyes. Samantha's smile vanished, her expression darkening. "You little—" "Leave," Lily ordered, her tone icy as she positioned herself protectively between Samantha and the boys. "Now." For a moment, the air was charged with hostility, thick with unspoken threats. Then, with a dramatic toss of her hair, Samantha turned and stormed out, the door slamming behind her. Lily let out a shaky breath, her heart pounding in her chest. She knelt, gathering her sons into her arms, holding them tightly as they clung to her. "It's okay, babies," she whispered, smoothing their hair with trembling hands. "Mommy's here. Mommy's got you." But as she sat there, cradling her boys, one terrifying thought echoed in her mind. Samantha wasn't going to give up, and Lily didn't know if she had the strength to keep her sons safe from whatever was coming next. Evan knew something was off the second he stepped into his penthouse that night. The lights were off, and the air was thick with tension. Samantha was sitting on the couch, a glass of wine in her hand, her expression icy and cold. "What's going on?" he asked, shrugging off his coat. "Where were you?" Samantha demanded, her voice sharp with anger. "I had a meeting," he replied slowly, confused. "I thought I told you." "You didn't tell me anything," she snapped, her tone rising. "And I had to pick up your kids like I was some kind of errand girl." Evan frowned, a deep line forming between his brows. "You went to Lily's?" "Yes, I went to Lily's." Samantha's voice climbed, her frustration boiling over. "Because you didn't show up. I had to stand there while she told me I'm not welcome in their lives. And to top it off, your little brat screamed at me like I was some kind of monster." "Samantha." Evan's voice was soft as he raised his hands, trying to diffuse the situation. "They're just kids. They don't understand. They don't understand because you won't let me be part of their lives," Samantha shouted, leaping to her feet, her anger palpable. "You're letting her push me out, Evan. You're letting her win." "Win?" Evan echoed, his voice filled with disbelief. "This isn't a game, Samantha. Those are my sons." "And what about me?" she seethed, her voice low but burning with fury. Am I just a placeholder? Someone to keep your bed warm until you decide to play house again? Samantha, stop! Evan's voice was stern, but a trace of pleading lingered. This isn't about you. It's about them. No, Evan, she murmured, stepping closer, her gaze intense and threatening. This is about us. And if you don't make a decision soon, you're going to lose me for good. Evan's heart raced. He loved Samantha. He truly did. But his sons, they were his blood, his responsibility. Innocent in this whole mess, yet caught in a battle they didn't deserve. I can't just walk away from them, he whispered. Not again. Samantha's expression twisted with rage. Without warning, she hurled her glass against the wall, the sharp sound of shattering glass echoing in the empty penthouse. Fine, she spat, but don't come running to me when she ruins everything. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her, leaving Evan standing in the dim light, the silence around him suffocating. The custody battle dragged on for months, wearing Lily down, piece by piece. Each time she stepped into the courtroom, she braced herself for another wave of accusations. Another attempt by Samantha's high-powered lawyer to tear her apart, to prove she was an unfit mother. But Lily held firm, refusing to bend or break. She wasn't going to be intimidated. Evan, torn between his loyalty to his children and his crumbling relationship with Samantha, tried to mediate. Time and again he promised Lily that he wanted what was best for their boys. But his actions, late to visits, missing key moments in their lives, told a different story. Then everything changed one afternoon. The sun was shining brightly when Lily's lawyer called with unexpected news. Samantha had filed for full custody. Not Evan, Samantha. She was claiming Lily was emotionally unstable, that the boys would be better off with her and Evan. The nerve of it left Lily speechless. Can she even do that? Lily whispered, gripping the phone tightly. She's not their mother. No, her lawyer replied gravely, but she's using her money and connections to tip the scales in her favor. We have to be ready for anything. The next hearing blurred by. Lily sat in shock as Samantha's lawyer twisted every detail of her life, turning it into something toxic and dangerous. They painted Lily as an obstacle, a mother who poisoned her sons' minds against their father and his new fiancé. Her heart raced as she listened, her eyes searching for Evans. He sat there, looking defeated, staring at the floor. He didn't believe any of it. She knew that much. But he didn't speak up. He didn't defend her. He just sat there, letting Samantha tear her apart. In that moment, Lily saw the truth. Evan would never change. He was too weak, too scared of losing Samantha to do what was right. He would let her destroy Lily just to hold on to his relationship. But Lily wasn't weak, and she wasn't going to lose her children without a fight. When it was finally her turn to speak, Lily rose to her feet, her voice unwavering and filled with quiet strength. She spoke about her boys, their dreams, their personalities, the way their laughter filled the house every night before bed. She talked about the sacrifices she'd made, the love and care she'd given them, the life she had built for them, all on her own. I'm not perfect, she said softly, looking Evan directly in the eyes. But I love my children more than anything, and I will fight for them with every breath I have. The room was silent. The judge looked at her thoughtfully, then turned sharply to Evan. Mr. Collins, she said, her tone piercing the tension in the room. Do you support your fiancé's petition for full custody? Evan's head jerked up, his eyes wide, startled. What? Evan stuttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Do you really believe your fiancé should have more authority over your children than their mother," the judge repeated, her tone firm and unwavering. Evan glanced between Samantha, whose eyes burned with fury, and Lily, who stood resilient and composed. After a long pause, he slowly shook his head. "No," he murmured. "I don't." Samantha's expression twisted with rage. "Evan, you can't," she began, but he interrupted softly. "I'm sorry, Samantha, but this isn't right." The judge nodded approvingly, turning her attention back to Lily. "I believe you, Miss Anderson. Your children are fortunate to have such a strong, devoted mother." And with those words, the long nightmare finally came to an end. Samantha stormed out of the courtroom, her carefully laid plans crumbling. The engagement between her and Evan disintegrated soon after, torn apart by bitterness and resentment. Without Samantha's influence, Evan willingly agreed to a limited custody arrangement, starting with supervised weekend visits until the boys felt comfortable with him. Lily took things one step at a time, slowly rebuilding trust, not as a partner, but as a co-parent. Evan made a genuine effort, and as the months passed, the boys began looking forward to their weekends with him. But the emotional scars were deep. Lily understood that healing would take time, years maybe. Evan would never be fully integrated into their family again, not in the way she and the boys were. But she had come to terms with that, knowing she had fought for her children and herself. She'd emerged stronger. One evening, as she tucked the boys into bed, Oliver looked up at her with serious blue eyes. "Mommy," he whispered, "is Daddy coming back?" Lily's heart clenched. She knelt by his bed, gently brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "He'll always be your daddy, sweetheart," she said softly. "But no, he's not coming back to live with us." Oliver nodded, deep in thought, his small brow furrowed. "That's okay," he said after a moment. "We have you." Lily smiled, her heart swelling with love. "Yes, you do," she whispered. "You always will." As she switched off the light and quietly left the room, a deep sense of peace washed over her. The battle was over, the pain, the betrayal, all of it in the past. She and her boys were free at last. Years passed. The boys grew up happy and healthy, thriving in the cozy, loving home Lily had built for them. Evan remained in their lives, though distantly, a visitor more than a father. He remarried eventually, but it was clear that Lily and the boys were never far from his thoughts. Lily moved forward, focusing on her career, her children, and the life she had rebuilt. She founded her own business, a small but reputable marketing firm known for its integrity and creativity. Though she dated a few men over the years, none truly filled the void Evan had left. But Lily had learned to be okay with that. One sunny afternoon, she stood on the sidelines of a soccer field, watching Jesse race across the grass, his face alight with joy. Beside her, Oliver and Jake cheered loudly, their voices mingling with the excitement of the crowd. For the first time in a long while, Lily felt truly content. She had fought hard, lost and won, broken and rebuilt herself. And in the end, she had discovered something far greater than what she'd lost: peace, strength, and a future full of promise. As her boys ran toward her, their faces flushed with happiness, Lily opened her arms wide, a smile lighting up her face. Because this love, this family, was all she ever needed. Lily's journey is one of resilience, courage, and the fierce love of a mother who would stop at nothing to protect her children from pain and betrayal. Through a grueling custody battle, she never wavered, proving that true strength comes from within. No amount of power or wealth could ever compare to the unconditional love of a mother. Wow, what an incredible journey Lily has been on. From the heartbreak of being abandoned at the altar to finding out she was pregnant with quadruplets, her story is one of resilience and unwavering strength. Lily didn't just survive. She thrived for her children, building a life for them all on her own. Her determination, despite every obstacle thrown her way, is something we can all learn from. She faced betrayal, emotional scars, and a bitter custody battle. Yet she never gave up. Her love for her boys was the driving force that kept her going. I think the most beautiful lesson here is that true strength comes from within, and no matter how tough the situation gets, a mother's love can never be broken. Lily's story reminds us that even when life doesn't go as planned, we can rebuild, heal, and find something even better: peace and a family full of love. So, what do you think? What part of Lily's journey spoke to you the most? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.